Hey guys, it's Nick. Welcome to another episode of T-365. Today we're going through the updates from Microsoft in May of 2024. If you follow along in the past, you know I'm focusing on what's relevant to the MSP space, blocking out the noise from the 100 or so announcements that come from Microsoft each month. Keep in mind that I do sync a blog post or link a blog post down below with more helpful information about all these announcements, including video tutorials, how-to documents, things like that. So be sure to check that out after this video. As always, if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content around Microsoft and the MSP space. Otherwise, let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, getting into it here, we're going to start off with Microsoft Teams as we usually do. This first message is just a new UI enhancement. This is providing new file image previews and messages for the documents that you're sharing. You can see that down below here in this particular screenshot by just giving users more of a preview of those documents. So nice to have. This will happen mid-June, be complete by late June. This next one here, if you've experienced this pain point, you'll know how important this is or how much I'm excited for this, which is the draggable presentable toolbar when screen sharing. So when you screen share, you have this toolbar that pops up at the top of your page, and it often gets in the way of our browser tab, something that we're trying to click on, and it's highly annoying. So this is allowing you to drag and drop that to a different part of the screen. So you could click on that. If you've experienced this pain, you know how much of value this is going to provide. This will happen mid-June, be complete by late June. And then the next one here is for shared channels in Microsoft Teams. If you go ahead and share a channel link with somebody, instead of having this clunky user experience that's more negative where they say access denied, they'll get more of a message that says join the channel. It'll prompt the channel owner for that request and they can approve it or deny. So it's just kind of a more native experience and having to reach out to that channel owner as well. This will happen late June, be complete by late June as well. So kind of around the same time frame. Next one here is related to some admin updates, just UI updates, UX updates within the Teams Admin Center. Just more of a nice to know that they're consolidating all of these features as far as the settings and policy management into this page that you can see here instead of having that dispersed across multiple tabs in the left-hand nav. So just be aware of that when they make these changes. That'll happen early June and be complete by early July. Next one here is related to Teams Phone on mobile. So if you're on the Teams Phone mobile app and you're on a call with somebody, you have poor network connection, as you can see here in the screenshot, you can actually transfer it to the cellular data on your cell phone itself and maybe create a better connection without disrupting the call. So that will be something interesting to see how that works and how effective that is. But that's early July and being complete by late July as far as the rollout goes. This next one here is related to recurring meetings within Microsoft Teams and the integration with Microsoft Loop, which for those of you who are not familiar with Loop, it's more of your shared note-taking collaboration tool that's newer for Microsoft. But as you can see in the screenshot, it will prompt the meeting organizer to start a loop to organize really all the meeting notes and the collaboration, which I think is really good for recurring meetings. If this was just one meeting they were suggesting that, I think you get into a lot of data sprawl. This will happen mid-May and be complete by early June. Next one here is more of a quality of life for just users being added to Teams channels, and this is part of the onboarding experience. So previously, if you're added to a channel, you'd be able to see all, or I should say being added to a team, you would see all the downstream channels that were associated and automatically get notifications about those, things like that. And that might be intrusive to the user. They may not be exposed or needing to be exposed to the subsequent channels. So this is allowing users to see what recommended channels for a particular team are for a user, and they can add those as well too. So kind of using a model of least addition, if you will, to basically add channels ad hoc versus getting them all out of the gate. This will happen mid-July and be complete by late July. Next one here is related to access into the transcripts, recordings, as well as more of the premium features and Teams Premium for the AI generated recap, or if you're on Copilot, the Copilot recap. This is giving more flexibility for the meeting policies themselves so that somebody else can get access to the recording, for instance. And that's really kind of a pain point today if you're one of the meeting attendees or co-organizer that has to reach out to the organizer to get access into the recording, something like that. So this is giving more quality of life to that experience. This will happen early June and be complete by mid-June. Next one here is more of a productivity killer in my opinion, but many of us are adopting the avatars in Teams. This is giving users the ability to create an avatar from an existing photo using certain AI technology. It does require certain specifications as far as the specs on the device itself. which you can check out as part of the blog post that I supplement this with. But the timelines are shifted on this one. It'll roll out early June, be complete by late June. Next one here for frontline workers who leverage the walkie-talkie app. This is extending support into the closed captions on walkie-talkie as well too. Maybe if you're in an area that isn't very audible, it's really hard to hear what somebody's communicating over the walkie-talkie. You now can read that through the transcript. You can see that in the screenshot here. This will happen early June and be complete by late June. Next one here is related to Teams rooms and being able to have speech recognition through this AI technology called voice print technology. And effectively here, when you think about the transcripts that are going on in a regular meeting, it's able to identify which user's talking based off of their entry into that meeting, create that direct connection, versus a Teams room where you may have 4 participants sitting in the room itself and previously wasn't able to pick up, who's speaking at this point in time. But now it's going to try to use this voice print technology to identify that, to tag the user who's in the meeting against, who's talking as part of the transcript. Yet to be seen on how accurate that might look, but this will happen mid-June and be complete by late June. Last one here, wanted to call out another productivity killer. We have Copilot supposed to be enhancing our productivity, so we have to have balance, right? But I wanted to call this out because it would be popular for a lot of people. If you use something like Discord, you can do this today where you can upload custom emojis, reactions, GIFs as well too within Teams. So not just using the native ones that are part of Microsoft. You might want to create some edgy GIFs in your environment just to help out with the culture in certain ways. Also kill productivity. So this happened in early July and be complete by late July. Shifting into Outlook here, I'm so excited for this one. Long time coming, but they're effectively changing on, by default, the native mail client and calendar client on Windows devices to point to the new Outlook as well, instead of those custom applications, which causes a lot of friction for us as an MSP, for our clients and the end users as well. Some of you may out there be saying like, well, I hate the new Outlook, so this is better, but not great. But just know, I think that'll continue to improve as well. But I think it's a big win just in general to move on to the applications that are part of our Microsoft 365 offering. This will happen early June and be complete by mid-June. Shifting into Microsoft SharePoint here, a couple of great announcements. First one of which that is probably already available in your tenants today is this archiving feature for inactive sites. So this will allow you to archive inactive sites, save your storage quota within the SharePoint environment as a whole, and you can always restore them if you wanted to at a later point in time. This again will happen late April, be completed by mid-May, so by the time you're watching this, already available within your Microsoft environment. In a similar vein, from storage costs and just versioning as a whole, their improved version history controls are leveraging certain AI technologies here to give you more of an automatic classification of the versions that need to be retained based off of things like how often the users have interacted with it or the last time the users interacted, as well as some of the information stored in those versions as well. The alternative, as you can see in the screenshot, is using the manual version, which are basically just defining static figures as far as how many versions to maintain, or the time or the time frame in which to retain those in. Maybe say every 3 years, you start knocking off the older versions. So this will happen late August, be complete by mid-October. Microsoft Stream is next here. Not something I cover too often, but I think Microsoft Stream is coming a long way in sense of video editing, and just the content generation, interacting with Copilot even on the AI front. But this is giving the ability to enhance the interactivity feature where you can actually link documentation to certain points in the video, so you can have more of a reference point to what's being communicated, and they'll automatically recommend documentation based off of what's being communicated in the video. So kind of a cool feature there to kind of get more in depth on getting the most out of that video experience. This will happen mid-June, be complete by mid-July. Next one here is super cool if you manage Mac OS devices. Microsoft's investing heavily in Mac management in Intune, and this is one of the coolest that they've introduced up to date, one of the biggest security functions or updates as well too that may have inhibited us from adopting Intune as our primary MDM for Mac OS. But this is platform single sign-on, so there's a lot of capabilities. Definitely check out my blog post for more information on this if you do manage Macs today. But it includes some of our features that we saw from Windows Autopilot, where you're able to download all the improved apps, the configuration profiles before a user is able to go ahead and start using the device, but it's extending single sign-on from our Microsoft authentication and able to leverage stronger, more phishing-resistant forms such as passkeys as well too on the device as part of the native setup and native login capabilities that also pass through single sign-on to those applications that are pre-installed from Intune as well on macOS. So it's creating a really seamless user experience, allows for local admin creation upon the out-of-box experience. A lot of great stuff that we've been waiting for quite some time. So definitely check this out again if you manage macOS today. In a similar vein, if we shift to Windows Autopilot, there's been some recent enhancements here that I think have been much needed as well too. Definitely too much to cover in this short form video, but some of the highlights that I wanted to cover here is they're really combining some of the settings that you would previously for your enrollment profile or your out-of-the-box experience for users into a unified experience, which they're calling device preparation policies. And this is allowing you to define not only the deployment mode for the out-of-box experience, but what the user sees. Do they have to wait till all the apps are installed before they can start using the device? Things like that. Revise reporting to give more real-time metrics against how the deployment's going for the actual profile being installed, the deployment as far as getting up and running for the user, and then enhance user experience where they're getting a better feedback loop about the percentage completed against the out-of-box experience or the Windows Autopilot profile loading versus kind of more of the ambiguous settings that they had before where they're wondering, is this frozen, is this still working, and lesser of a feedback loop. So it's kind of a dial bar to see that percentage and more of that feedback loop about we're installing these apps right now, we're installing these profiles, things like that. This is GA today, so you can go check this out. And the same thing here with Windows 32 app supersedence. So many of us may not be adopting Intune just yet for app deployment and app patch management, but this is leading into that, and I think it's getting more and more robust, especially for things like Win32 application deployments, where now you can have the supersedence setting, which you can say if I onboard a new device or there's a device with existing applications, I can actually uninstall previous versions that might be, out of date, not up to date with the patching that they need, vulnerable in certain ways as well. So it's just a nice feature to help with the life cycle of the applications that we're deploying. And then lastly here for Intune, we have this Windows Update Distribution Report. Again, another area where we probably are still using RMM to do our updates, get our patch reporting, but this is becoming more and more robust in Intune as well, where you can actually see telemetry, and this report is showing the patch report as far as the security, non-security updates, and the percentage of devices that have those as well too, out of the entire company. So it's kind of an aging patch report that you can get there. This is also GA, link in my blog post of how to see this. Shifting into Microsoft Copilot here, Team Copilot was something announced at Microsoft Build very recently here. And not to be confused with Teams Copilot, this is something where they're extending your personal assistant into involving Copilot within a team level context. So you can see in this video that's going on right now, it's actually taking notes while the meeting is occurring, creating follow-up tasks, things like that. It actually goes beyond the meeting experience and goes into group chats. It goes into other applications like Planner and Loop as well too. And it's taking it to the next level in the sense that it was doing these things before, but after the meeting was occurring versus real time where people can actually see that. And I think that'll perceive more value as well. No official timelines yet. They just mentioned kind of more of an ambiguous later 2024 for this, but I'm excited for this one. It comes included with your Copilot for 365 licensing if you do subscribe to that today. Check out my blog post to view the whole video and announcement. Next one here is around Copilot Studio and this agent concept that they're talking about. I wanted to highlight this because you can create your own Copilots with Copilot Studio, but this one was cool to me because it's using kind of legacy architecture from Power Automate, and in this case, it's creating an entire onboarding flow where a net new user could have automated progression as far as the rollout goes to automate common tasks from a business process perspective, but then they also have this kind of chat bot with Copilot to interact with as they are onboarding. And I think this is a cool use case for MSPs, given there's still a lot of friction today around user onboarding. And if you can link in training documentation, kind of that progression, it could create a really amazing experience for our end users. Subject to how this actually looks though, the bugs and all of that. So I hope to publish a video on this as it gets more mature and releases. Again, same as the last one, later 2024 is the date that we were told. Nothing specific on this, but you can watch the full video on my blog post. Next one here, they're extending Copilot capabilities into classic Outlook, and that was previously not available in the legacy Outlook. I think they're doing this because so many people hate the new Outlook for Windows, and they want to make sure that Copilot's still being adopted, so they're accommodating for that. The other thing that they're adding in here though is the chat level functionality and actual app on the left-hand nav for the new Outlook environment as well too, so you can actually chat with the graph grounding going on with your business context. So you can do more than just chat with your email. You're chatting across your documentation, your meetings, all of that without having to leave Outlook. And that's a big deal that we have just in Teams today. So the timelines for this for the legacy Outlook, classic Outlook is mid-June and be complete by late June. And then the new Outlook, they'll introduce this app and in-app experience early May, be complete by mid-May. So you probably see that already today if you're leveraging Copilot. Next announcement, I like that they did this here. Basically, this Copilot adoption dashboard that we saw was requiring Viva Insights licensing. And some of us didn't have that, and you kind of feel gypped because you're getting Copilot, so why do I need another different license to get this reporting about adoption? Now it's going to be included as part of your licensing model. You don't have to have a Viva or Viva Insights license. So one of the few times I can say Microsoft made a really good move here in the sense of the licensing model and just kind of the feature subset. This will be early July and be complete by late September as far as the availability goes. And extending into that, the Copilot dashboard is going to include this metric about the company's total Copilot assisted hours, as well too as this perception of the interactions as far as all the users interacting with the Microsoft applications and Copilot within there. Interesting metric to see and see how that's maybe potentially skewed, but still want to see that in the sense of what ROI are we looking at for our company if we do adopt Copilot. This will happen early July and be complete by late September. Next couple ones here, this one is specifically Copilot in Word. If you're familiar with this, you're able to kind of leverage certain text to create tables and things like that. They're kind of extending this functionality with the canvas setting in there to generate more of the content from multiple different types of selections that you do, whether it's text, list, tables, everything like that. You're going to be enhancing that capability. So timelines for this one will happen late April on the web, in early June on Win32 and Mac, in early July on iPad, and then the rollout is expected to complete early August 2024. The other one here is in Teams. This is the Shifts application if you use that for a plugin, and this is incorporating Microsoft Copilot to Shifts. I think this would be really powerful. You have to see it work, but if you use Shifts, you can get this information about the Teams open shifts that you may be part of, or schedule time off. So it's just another cool application use case if you are leveraging that within the Microsoft ecosystem. This will happen early June and be complete by late June. This next one here I included as part of Copilot, but it's really more of a purview function. I think it just involves AI, so I want to kind of bucketize it here. But there's going to be a lot of capabilities expanding into purview to help you identify where your sensitive data is being stored or being used in third-party AI capabilities, Gen AI tools like maybe BART or other third-party AI tools outside of Copilot, like ChatGPT even. And that can show you, how many times sensitive data is being surfaced to users. This does require, obviously, your prerequisites of tagging your sensitive data and knowing where that is. But I hope that this keeps evolving over time. They're calling this the Generative AI Hub within Purview. And this is going into a public preview here early May. And the rollout, will be complete during that time. And then general availability is more of later Q4 of this year for us to see that. I'll probably do a video on this too, just because it's interesting and would require a lot of prerequisites, especially in SMB that probably aren't there today. So more to come on that, but just wanted to give that update. Last announcement here is really interesting. Also came out from Microsoft Build. This is what they call Copilot Plus PCs. And this is really a new age Windows Surface device here that has these really powerful computing capabilities. And like you can see here, more than 40 trillion operations per second. And so it's going to be really interesting. This works directly with Copilot, new piece of hardware that you get here, but they have a lot of interesting capabilities like this one that you're seeing here. It's called Recall, and it's actually able to kind of go back in time and see what you were looking at on your device at that point in time. So it's actually taking screenshots of everything you're doing every few seconds, which is both cool, but also very scary in the sense of data privacy, things like that. There's a lot of controversy around that even already today. More to come on this. You can check out the whole video and the announcement from Build on my blog. But this, again, more ambiguous timeline happened late 2024 is when we might start to see these first devices start to get manufactured and shipped out. Last section here, Microsoft admin. First one here I thought was pretty interesting. This is organizational messages. And I think it's interesting because you can actually push out and create messages that you could either send out via email, your 365 apps, or even on the client applications as far as a push notification goes. And for us as MSPs, you might want to push out things like service degradation to avoid, tickets flowing through your organization. I would love for this to extend into something like a Lighthouse, where you have these capabilities where you can push out these short form communications to users when there are maybe reactive events like that. But I did think it was interesting, maybe not adopted by all and would be kind of isolated if it was on a per tenant layer, but could also help with adoption capabilities as well, where they're propping up Copilot to say, hey, you do know that you could use Copilot in Word, right? And just kind of engage the users a little bit more natively, but we also obviously have to be protective of that and just disrupting user workflows and really making people angry at the same time. So timelines for this one is early May, be complete by late May. So by the time you're watching this, this may be in that preview state where you can view that in the 365 Admin Center. Next two announcements here, MFA is going to be required for Azure access starting in July 2024. And that's going to be for all Azure users. I think that if you have been proactive about your security, this should have already been something you've been doing for years now. But really, Microsoft's trying to step that up, given the attack vector, given kind of spikes in usage, crypto miners being spun up in Azure, just kind of the necessary protections we need in order to protect resources that could kind of unfold into unlimited cost for us as far as the billing event goes, because it's based off that usage. So definitely, pre-configure conditional access policies to accommodate for that. I just want to notify that as well. And then the new version of the Security Alert API, I think is really interesting because this gives you a partner API that you can use to pull in Azure fraud detection as well across all of your customers. So if usage is spiking in negative ways, or if a resource is being spun up that look malicious in nature, you can actually get ahead of that with these alerts. And I would configure that as an MSP to flow through into my ticketing system, or if you're more advanced, maybe a SIM tool, things like that, just so you can monitor that over time. But definitely check out my blog for more in-depth information about this API and what you can do there. This next announcement was also something interesting, where they're extending your authentication methods, typically for your MFA authentication methods, into external providers. So previously, we did this with custom controls, and the most common example I can think of in this space is Duo. You could add Duo as a custom control, and you could add that to your conditional access policy as the grant type. You could say, I want to allow this, but use Duo MFA to sign in. This is actually extending that and actually making it more robust, where you can still use Duo in your conditional access policies, but you can use Duo as part of PIM activation, and then your identity risk policies as well too, Intune device registration. So it's cool that you get to expand in that. Outside of Duo though, you can see a list of the providers in the link that I provide in my blog. None of the other ones I consider to be in the MSP space. The only other one that they could add, I think that would be interesting, would be something like Okta, which they don't have today as well too. But it's cool that they're extending this, extending your functionality if you are leveraging something like Duo here. Okay guys, that's everything I had for you today's video. Definitely comment below with the features or functionality you're most excited about. And as always, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content around Microsoft and the MSP space. I'll see you guys next week.